Hey, welcome to Unsafe Spaces. I'm Randy Cross, and we've wrapped up 2017. This episode will be a little bit of a review with a top 10 towards the end. But we're going to start off with football and something that has not finished their business yet. In the form of 2017 in general, it's done. It's finished. College football is not done. In fact, we were treated last weekend to a pretty amazing couple of games. Some very good bowl games. I mean, congratulations to UCF taking out Auburn in that Peach Bowl. Of all the games, might have been about the most surprising to some people. I was lucky enough to think UCF was going to win that. But if you look at the playoff scenario, the way it's sat, with the Rose Bowl with Oklahoma and Georgia, and then the Sugar Bowl with Alabama and Clemson for the third time, you had potential for some pretty epic games. Well, the truth is, we got epic on the first try, and that was the Rose Bowl. Yeah, it was something else. I tell you, the way that Rose Bowl game went. What we're going to do here is we're going to show you a lot of the highlights. To me, that was one of the highlights afterwards, that shot, because that's got everything. There are 106,000 crazy Oklahoma and Georgia fans. You can't tell the difference between the two because they're both in red. But you got the B2, you've got the flag, you've got, I mean, heck, they're so high up on that shot right there, you're getting some smoke and clouds from fireworks or whatever heck that was in the middle of it. But this game, and it was kind of a precursor as to what it was going to be like with Oklahoma and Georgia. Oklahoma had the Heisman Trophy winner, Baker Mayfield, and he lived up to the sort of the billing. He played extremely well. Georgia came in with what people thought was a pretty amazing running game and a very good defense. 1 out of 2 is not bad, because the way this thing started, it looked like it was going to be out of control. Now, the final score, when you look at it, looks like a high school basketball game. 56-48. That's kind of nuts. And that's the kind of game that I'm sure Kirby Smart, the Georgia head coach, had no intention of getting into. How beautiful is that? That is something. But yeah, 54-48 was our final score. Maybe one of the best. I guess we're always saying this is the best ever. I tell you what, that might be the best Rose Bowl ever. And as far as this short-lived playoff period, it's definitely the best playoff game. Check out some of these highlights, and there are a lot of them. We're only going to show you the scores, which means there's still a lot of them. Mayfield was nothing short of stellar. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. But between Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and this offense, Georgia just kind of wouldn't go away. Though at times, it looked like Oklahoma had an answer for everything.
This is Anderson, who breaks free. Rodney Anderson in the clear, heading for the end zone.
Rodney Anderson might have been the MVP if not for all the actions by Sony Michel specifically. So when it was 21-7, I was pretty worried that Georgia would not be able to answer. They answered. This might be the play of the game right here. A reverse turns into a pass to a wide-open Baker Mayfield. Georgia came back, kicked a field goal. Those 3 points turned out to be pretty doggone important. But every time you looked up, either Sony Michel or Nick Chubb were bolting free. Unbelievable amount of rushing yards, great speed. Offensive line for Georgia should be extremely proud. They had a fantastic year so far, and they'll have their biggest challenge coming up here when Georgia faces Alabama in the national championship game next Monday night on the 8th. It's kind of funny how long it takes to do these highlights, isn't it? Because, like I said before, now this is just the scores. These are just the touchdowns and the field goals. And You know, at 38 all,
Around the end.
you got to figure, oh,
Strong out.
next score might win. And then this happens.
Sooners have it. Stephen Parker. A scoop and score.
At that point, with about, 6:50 something to go, I thought Georgia was toast. But they drive back down, line up in that wild dog formation. Chubb scores, and suddenly it's 45 all. Then we're going into overtime. First overtime in Rose Bowl history. Guy I think will be a potential MVP of the national championship game, Rodrigo Blankenship, kicks a field goal. Oklahoma kicks a field goal. Everything looks normal. They're going to trade. They're going to go back and forth. Oklahoma gets the ball, second in the second overtime. They drive down. They can't score a touchdown. Lorenzo Carter comes up and seems to hang in the air for about 5 seconds, and he blocks that field goal. So now all Georgia needs is a field goal. Well, if they're going to give you this, why kick a field goal? And Georgia wins on that great run. And that's going to set up a pretty special matchup now between Georgia and Alabama. And that's a matchup, and that's a rivalry. Well, I can't really call it a rivalry because Alabama usually wins the games. In fact, Nick Saban is 11-0 going against former coaches that have been on his staff. Former coordinators gone on to be head coaches. But congratulations to Kirby Smart and the Dogs. You're going to need some luck because Saban and them look like they're back to their old selves. And that kind of leads into the next game, which was the Sugar Bowl. And as unbelievable as that Rose Bowl was, as crazy as that Rose Bowl was, we couldn't get 2 of them. And, man, we didn't. Because it won't take long to roll through these highlights because they're basically, a turnover by Alabama and a lots of scores. Jalen Hurts, really nice job by him. Came into the game only completing about 40% of his passes outside the pocket. And he did it. And he did it in pretty classic form. The Clemson offense just was not able to answer the challenge of this defense by Alabama. I guess if you're looking at it objectively, maybe this just told you how great Deshaun Watson was by managing to almost single-handedly at times keep Clemson in those games against Alabama the last 2 years. Because they just did not have an answer. And every ball that bounced like that, it bounced into the arms of the Crimson Tide player. And you know you're getting confident when your quarterback can kind of escape. You don't pay for it. He steamrolls the coach. He wasn't ready. Nick didn't have his knees bent, and he wasn't ready to go. But 24-6, and it really wasn't that close. Alabama sort of rolled out all kinds of stuff. They went William Refrigerator Perry on Clemson, and it didn't bode well for the rest of that game. Let's put it that way. I think Alabama will be a prohibitive favorite in this national championship game next Monday night here in Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. But I think Georgia wins 23-21 on a Rodrigo Blankenship field goal at the very end. But we'll see. Wouldn't be the first time I was wrong, but I sure hope I'm right. Okay, let's go on to the NFL and take a look. NFL promotes as well as anybody out there. Super Bowl 52 is going to be in Minneapolis first week of February. But check out this NFL Network promo that they did, which basically touts what the playoffs are.
Postseason is what counts. Postseason is where legends are created.
Postseason is all about writing your name in history.
It means everything. They're living and dying with every play.
Every game in the playoffs is win or go home.
We're talking about a game that we love, a game that we played in the backyard.
These are the dreams that have gone on through kids' minds growing up playing football.
It's really the time of the year where it gets real.
Postseason is why you play the game. Postseason is a blessing. It's a gift. It's a reward for all the work, toil, and labor that you put in the summer. Postseason is everything.
It is. I got to agree 100% with primetime. Deion Sanders. It's the real season. There's the preseason, there's the regular season, and there's the real season. And here are all the contenders on the outside there. And they're going to be playing. The Falcons here locally will be going to the Los Angeles Rams. Saints in Carolina, Buffalo and Jacksonville. And they'll slowly just kind of win and head in towards the middle to get to Minneapolis. Vikings have a great chance of playing a home Super Bowl. And contrary to what people will keep telling you, that's actually been done before. January of 1985, the 49ers played the Miami Dolphins about 10 minutes from their practice facility in the Bay Area. Actually, it's Palo Alto instead of Candlestick Park. But I don't know. That sounds like a home game to me. But you won't hear much about that. But that's okay. That's okay. And we won that game, by the way. Let's move on and take a look at a play that happened. You know, there were a lot of good games in Week 17. A lot of meaningless games in Week 17. But one play happened. And I'm going to preface this before we roll the video in saying the NFL does a lot of things well. Head injuries are one of the things they don't do well. Blake Countess, the safety from the Los Angeles Rams, hit Marquise Goodwin, the wide receiver. And if this was college, he'd have been ejected from the game for targeting. If it was in the second half, he'd have missed the first half of the playoff game this week against Atlanta. The point I'm just trying to make, and just keep this in mind when you look at this, these are the kind of plays that have to be removed from football. Okay? I know there's a lot of people out there that want to go, oh, put flags on them, put dresses on them. No, let's be realistic. CTE is real. Concussions are real. Brain injuries are real. And what does a brain injury potentially look like live and in living color? Check this out.
Garoppolo 12 of 19 in this half. Oh my goodness! Goodwin just got unloaded upon by Blake Countess. And then the flags flew from every angle.
A lot of times when you're a
watch his arms and legs after he's hit.
Safety just waiting for you this portion of the field.
That's an involuntary action.
Countess tried to get.
That's his brain still reacting.
Change his level in which the way he went to hit Marquise Goodwin.
Defensive players have to be taught to change their assault angle, if you will. They've got to be changed just to back off. Now, I blame Jimmy Garoppolo too, because quarterbacks have to learn not to put their guys in those kind of positions. So if you don't put the ball there, he doesn't take that hit. And is that just part of his job? No, there isn't a job in the world that you get paid for like that's worth brain injury. None. Zero. End of report. Get me? Hopefully you do. All right. Let's move on to what we're going to do is our top 10. The year got off to kind of a crazy start all around the inauguration, and we had the Women's March, and we actually were subjected to some new terminology. And sitting at number 10 for us here at Unsafe Spaces is, let's check this out. Remember these hats? I know you do. Well, there's a bouncy little ditty that they came up with that I think tells the story pretty well.
My name is Michael Moore.
And our ain't for grabbing.
Well, now you all look so foolish. All the foolish things you do. You may wonder how come I drug you. It's 'cause it gets on my nerves what you do. Well, ladies, you know you bug me. There ain't no secret about that. And I wish you all well in D.C. Ladies, I'll spill the facts. Well, honey, I think you're funny. 'Cause only women Democrats would think of wearing pink badgy hats. Oh, lady meets knittings of your cruising down the street, saying to our girls, this is somehow right. Crochets of our privates on a Saturday night. Honey, I just wonder if there's irony in grabbing a pink badgy hat, 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 pink badgy hat.
Yep. It was a heck of a way to kick off 2017. Number 9 is kind of related because it all sort of started about that same time, right around the election, bled into January, into the inauguration. What we're calling sky whaling. When you start crying and you're screaming and you're yelling at the sky, that would be sky whaling. And that would be our number 9 story of 2017. Number 8 sort of rolls right into with that. And that's the whole idea of resist. Now, if it wasn't for Chuck and Nancy, we wouldn't have sort of the leaders of the whole resist movement. Good for them. You got to be leaders of something. They've been wrong an incredibly large amount of the time, but they're resisting, and that's what's important. Number 7 in our stories of the year. Man, I hate to bring this up for Falcon fans, but if you're just a sports fan, a football fan, how big was that story? That epic collapse. 28-3. Every Falcon fan knows those numbers well. Every football fan learned those numbers well. And they collapsed. Of course, they spent the better part of 2017 in the regular season after that saying, well, what happened there didn't really matter, didn't affect us. Really? Keep telling yourself that. And a serious note here, the number 6 story on the year were a couple of just despicable acts that were done. First, Steve Scalise and Representative Steve Scalise from Louisiana was shot. And there was a group of Republican lawmakers playing softball, practicing softball for a big softball game. And this crazy man comes in, asks who those guys are, finds out they are the Republican lawmakers, and he decides to open fire. And it is as insane as that was, as untoppable as that seems on the crazy scale. Then we were to later in the year be treated to what happened in Las Vegas. And that is still resonating with a lot of people in this country. We've never gotten the explanations, I think, satisfactorily on what actually happened here. The police clammed up. The FBI clammed up. Everybody stopped talking, including the hotels. But the bottom line was over 50 people were dead. Hundreds were shot. And the frustrating thing as a normal citizen is our number 6 story of the year. We really can't say what happened and why. Just can't. The guy that did it's dead. He'll never say. And we can't get straight answers. Number 5 story of the year, man, natural disasters. Now, if you wanted hurricanes, this was a hurricane season that was an epic hurricane season. We had Harvey, we had Irma. The people in Houston, in Texas, were slammed. The people in Florida and Puerto Rico were slammed with this weather. And to make all that worse, or to make all that worse as to how it happened and when it happened, then on top of that, we have all the fires out in California. And it's not one or two. There are like 6 or 8 good-sized fires all burning at the same time. Just looked like a vision out of Dante's Inferno. It looked like hell in some instances. And God, thank you, between the shootings, the fires, the floods, everything made you really appreciate our first responders out there. They were a huge part of these great stories. Number 4 in our stories of 2017. Well, you can't mention 2017 and you can't mention this last year when it comes to the NFL without talking about the kneeling. A lot of kneeling. Originally was done for the purpose of bringing attention to social injustice. Not really sure they didn't lose a little bit of focus as to what they were actually kneeling about after a while. There's always something that comes up and they can go, well, that's why we're doing it. But it did not go well, and it's one of the few instances, and you see Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed from my old team, the San Francisco 49ers. It's one of the few things that the NFL did not handle properly. I mentioned earlier the whole thing about concussions and head injuries they could handle better. It would be hard to handle this one any worse than they did, and it hurt them. It hurt them in a lot of ways. Now, the number 1 rated TV show, regularly scheduled TV show in America, was Sunday Night Football. That's a fact. That just released yesterday. Good for you. But it hurt them. Trust me, it hurt them. All right, next up on the list is something that I know millions and millions, if not hundreds of millions of people benefited from, I guess, the attention, because we saw a whole series of sex scandals, sexual harassment scandals. Started really with Harvey Weinstein. You know, then when you looked up and you saw all these other Hollywood types, for instance, being accused of things. It's a slippery slope. Matt Lauer went down at NBC News. The Today Show host, he was fired. Louis C.K., another guy. It does, at least initially here, have a huge amount of association with the entertainment business for some reason. Got no connection for you on that here. I just think the attention that's brought to that is a really, really good thing. It's a double-edged sword. You know, I'm not going to tell you I'm sorry to see Al Franken for whatever reason gone from the Senate, but it's a double-edged sword that we're going to have to be kind of careful with. But there are a lot of people for a long time have been taken advantage and exploited. And you don't think it's been a long time? How about that secret fund that they had in Washington, D.C. to pay off people that make these accusations? Think we get a little bit of facts on that? What are our chances? Not very good. You will never get the details on who got what, how much, and who made the mistakes. They'll just never do it. The deep state knows what went on, and they are not sharing or telling you. Next up, number 2, pretty easy selection here, the stock market. How's your 401k doing? How's any kind of retirement fund doing? Heck, even if you're not directly invested in the stock market, all indicators and everything else has been going up. Through the course of this year, 2017, the stock market went up 5,000 points. 5,000 points. Check this out.
It happened only 90 minutes into the trading day.
We are watching the Dow, which just hit 23,000 for the first time.
That milestone coming just over 2 months since the Dow crossed over 22,000. This has been the year of records day after day.
And it's what, now about 25,000? It's not going down. It's not stopping. all indications is the way this economy is going and the way it's being sort of primed and motivated, the stock market will continue to be a story. Now, one of the big stories of 2017 was that right there. And if you don't know what that is, Bitcoin. You've heard a lot about it. Anybody ever seen a Bitcoin? Oh, there's a Bitcoin. Nah, not really. You can't see air. You can't see a concept. And that's basically what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a really good idea that's making a lot of people very, very rich. Now, how can you be protected from Bitcoin? How about protected from it going down? How about protected from it breaking? I don't know. If you can't see it and you can't touch it and you can't feel it, there's something about this that my simple mind doesn't completely accept. I understand the concept. I've read all the papers. I've studied the Bitcoin extensively. You know, it's been up in the 19,000 range. It's been down in the 10, 11,000 range. It's going to be crazy. Good luck if you invest in it. But if you're in the stock market, it's going up and you're doing well. The number one story, love him, hate him, think he's doing a great job, a bad job, approval ratings, whatever. Heck, even study a poll, and they're never right. Approval ratings and whatnot. Who's going to win something? Don't consult the poll. Heck, consult bones, roll some rocks, do something. They'll tell you more than a damn poll will. But Donald Trump's first year in office has been the story of the year. Not only his interaction with China, his current interaction with little fat rocket man, his interaction with the nation of Israel, what he and his wife did, Melania, during the tragedies down not only in Houston, but also down in Puerto Rico, were admirable. Certain things people don't like about him. In fact, I can say there are people out there that like nothing about the current president. And you know what? The best thing, in my perspective, looking at a guy like that, is he doesn't really care. He signed numerous executive orders. The economy is booming. They just passed a tax plan we're all being told is just for the rich. Well, they've proven that is not just for the rich. A lot of people are getting tax plans. When those checks start rolling in February and they're bigger, people will notice. Now, this is a world of what have you done for me lately. So next up in Trump's world, 2018. Good luck with that. It's not going to be easy. Hey, I want to thank you all for joining us during this course of our first year, 28 episodes, counting this one. And if you want to know where to find us, social media is the places and the different platforms you can go to. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, unsafespacesUSA.com. That's unsafespacesUSA.com. Suggestions for stories or comments, that's producer at unsafespacesUSA.com. And as we finish this up and head on into the sunset for 2017 and open up the book on 2018 in the coming weeks, let's have a little Happy New Year, Happy Trails.
Happy trails to you until